Live from KYW News Radio, Philadelphia's news authority. This is Breakfast with the Candidates, sponsored exclusively with limited commercial interruption by the law firm Wolf Block. 5 Democrats hoping to be mayor are in our Independence Mall studios talking about the issues that will guide Philadelphia voters when they head to the polls in 2 weeks. With KYW City Hall Bureau Chief Mike Dunn and reporter Steve Tawa. Here's your moderator, KYW Special Contributor Larry Kane.
Mike Dunn's back. He's going to live with whoever wins this election in City Hall for the next 4 years. He's got his next question for Dwight Evans. Mike?
Representative, you're, as you alluded to earlier before the break, that you are proposing for 500 new police officers, and I want to talk about the cost to the city of that, estimated at $130 million over 5 years. But that doesn't even take into account the added costs to the court system, assuming these officers make more arrests. By some accounts, the total cost to the city could easily be an extra $50 million a year. Now, the revenues from the slots parlors have already been earmarked for speeded up reductions in the wage tax. Can you right now pledge to all Philadelphians without equivocation that you will not raise taxes to pay for this increased new law enforcement?
The answer is yes. I'm chairman of the Appropriation Committee in Harrisburg, know a little bit about managing budgets. It's a question of changing priorities and how you manage the dollars that you have available. There is the natural revenue growth of the budget. I will make some changes in priority. There will be state initiative. There will be for first-time money provided from the state, and I will change the priorities of the budget. Nothing will be more important than public safety. If you want to do something, you have to know how to do it, Mike. And I think of all the people up here, the difference in my role in there is that I've managed the budget, $20.6 billion. Now, there's no one sitting on this panel who has managed a budget of that size. I did that on the Democrat and Republican. So, one, I pledged that. So you got to change the priorities. In any budget that you have, you got to figure out where you want to make investments. So I talked about the state. Obviously, I'll make changes even if it comes down to the slot provision. And then it's the normal revenue growth of the budget.
So in follow-up for the other candidates, again, are we going to see new taxes to pay for your crime-fighting efforts?
Well, let me first say that I don't think that I'm better than anyone else who's running in this race. I think I have a better idea, which is that what we need to do is to use surveillance cameras, and we saw the success of it right out here on Market Street when this young lady was killed early in the morning. KYW reported 2 weeks ago on this radio station that the pilot program with some 30 cameras has reduced crime 44% in neighborhoods. So I think we can multiply the eyes that are looking in neighborhoods and looking in high crime areas. In terms of additional police, I would rather focus them on clearance rates on homicides, which is now down to 47%, and also having patrols out actually looking for people with guns, illegal guns, before they harm someone, rather than just blanket adding new cops. And no, I don't think we need new taxes in order to do my plan, which costs a lot less than what has been suggested by the other candidates.
Tom Knox.
We don't need new taxes. We need a new direction. Philadelphia's wasting its money on pay-to-play politics. If we could get pay-to-play politics out of the equation, we could afford many of these things. We need to get better management. We need to get better productivity, rid of the pay-to-play politics, get rid of the no-bid contracts that are going to a chosen few, get rid of the patronage, the nepotism, and some of the stupidity.
Michael Nutter.
Mike, the estimate you put out came from a document that I submitted to City Council last year when I proposed 250 officers over a 3-year period of time. The end result was, as a result of a budget amendment I made, 100 new officers will be on the streets of Philadelphia this year. Second, no, we don't need to raise anyone's taxes to provide for more officers on the streets. And I have put out a budget document, the first person to put out a budget document to show how I will pay for everything that I proposed during the course of this campaign. I believe I may still be the only person who has such a document out. We can pay for the officers we need in the budget that we have, as well as seeking certainly state and federal resources to help us here in Philadelphia, whether it's Department of Homeland Security dollars or money that's been proposed by the state. But we don't need new taxes to pay for additional law enforcement in Philadelphia. What we need is a commitment to safety now.
Bob Brady.
No new taxes. I'd like to ask Mike Dunn a question. What's the cost of life? How do you ask a family member what the cost of their loved one's what was the value of their life. We need to put more police officers on the street. I've talked to the FOP who endorsed me. They tell me with redeployment and some structural changes, they could put at least 150 to maybe 200 more police officers on the street. But if we can't go and fight for more money to save the lives in the city of Philadelphia, we don't belong to be in this room. We don't belong to be mayor of the city of Philadelphia.
Steve Tawa, a question for Shaka Fatah.
Congressman Fatah, you say that as mayor you'd investigate charging a fee to drive into Center City, Philadelphia, with the revenues going to public transportation. You were met with a barrage of criticism over this. Do you regret proposing the idea? And what do you say to commuters, particularly non-residents, who are screaming that this is yet another tax?
Well, first of all, I saw in the Inquirer editorial yesterday compliments to Mayor Bloomberg and his great leadership in New York. The mayor has just set up a congestion charge system of $8 to drive into New York, and is to use what will be over $500 million to fund their mass transit system. They're doing this in not only New York City, but they're studying in San Francisco, and they actually have implemented it in London. And notwithstanding the criticism, we have 1 million car trips in the center city a day. We have the worst air quality of any city on the East Coast. We have asthma and incidents of asthma.
We also have
among
high
our
parking
citizens.
rates in the city.
Let me just finish this point. What I've said is that we should study this. The president has put $100 million, made $100 million available, President Bush, to study this idea for big cities in the country. And if we did look at it and charge suburbanites who come into Philadelphia during the day and use that money to finance SEPTA, and generated the kind of money that's being generated in London or will be in New York City, I think it would be a good thing. But I'm not suggesting we go do it. I'm suggesting that we take the dollars available to do a study. And in this city, if we want to be a great city, we have to be prepared to look at new ideas.
Do you have an estimate on the per car rate, what it would be?
Well, in New York, they're going to charge $8, and Mayor Bloomberg, who was just complimented so wonderfully in the Inquirer yesterday when they were trying to criticize my friend Tom Knox, is just said we're going to put 1 million trees up to improve air quality and stormwater runoff and do a congestion charge. So if people are interested in this matter, then I'm interested in looking at it for our region. And I think that the truth is suburbanites wouldn't be able to come into our city unless we have mass transit. We need to improve mass transit. We need to find a dedicated source. I support Governor Randall's effort to privatize the turnpike to fund SEPTA. If that works, we won't need a congestion charge.
Tom Knox.
Well, you know, it's easy to implement a charge in New York. It's an island. You know, all they need to do is put a toll on bridges and tunnels. I believe, though, that in Philadelphia, the way we need to combat this is through a bigger effort on mass transit. We need to improve our bus systems. We need to get bus rapid transit coming from all
But
all
you need
directions.
money to do that.
That was
Well,
Shaka Fatah.
Yeah, well, you do need money, Chaka, but, you know, this is state money that we're talking about. We need to get back control of our SEPTA. Right now we have 2 votes. The state has 13, or the counties and the state have 13. We need to get control back. We need to get the state to start putting up their money. Other states do it. Our state isn't. Dedicated funding's needed. We can get better transportation.
Michael Nutter.
My understanding lately is that the federal agency that oversees this has said that the money is for actually implementation, not just for study of such an idea. But I think the larger concern is that
It's for a study. I'm a federal official. Let me confirm it for the councilman.
Okay. Well, I do know how to read. But in addition, I think it also presents a situation where it could have a devastating impact on retail and business climate here in Philadelphia, as well as potentially significantly damage relations with our suburban partners. And so I'd be very concerned about it.
Bob Brady.
There's only one problem worse than traffic. That's no traffic. I agree with you, Larry. I agree we need to reduce our parking rates. It costs
I didn't say that. I just said there was. I'm not taking a position.
I agree with you, Larry. I think we need to reduce our parking rates. I think that it costs more money to park a car than it costs to go to an event. We need to attract people into this town. We need to make sure that when they do come into this town, again, that they're safe, their cars are safe. We don't charge them a whole lot of money to park their cars. We got a great city. We offer a whole lot of amenities to it. Great downtown area. I love First Fridays. I love Wednesdays. The place is packed. The city's bustling, and that makes me feel good. We need to attract more down.
Dwight Evans.
Larry, since I'm the only one who carried the water for predictable funding in the first place in Harrisburg, I think the first thing is to talk about the transit first and foremost. I think that this concept to me is, again, what I've been saying to the congressman. It fits with the aspect of fuzzy math. I think, again, you have to look at how do you build a transit authority first. We're trying to reduce the cost of how we do business in the city of Philadelphia first and foremost. This goes in the opposite direction. And I believe that in Philadelphia's case, you got to talk about mass transit. You got to talk about roads first before you talk about this kind of concept. Secondly, I want to say something relating to what Mr. Knox said. It just shows you really when Mr. Knox made the statement around transit, his real lack of understanding in how to handle this particular issue. And I think, Larry, let me just add this, because I think it's important for people to see a distinction. I mean, if you just listen to Mr. Knox around transportation, he really didn't come out with a well-thought-out idea of how he thinks it should be handled. And I think that's important, Larry. I really do. I think the listening audience has a right to understand the difference between us in terms of how we would handle these issues.
We'll get to that in a moment, I'm sure. We'll be back with Breakfast with the Candidates after this short break. After this break on KYW News Radio 1060, nonstop from the 5 candidates.